came to Thornton about 7th grade. I remember the first day in middle school. I walked into my first hour and Alex Moreno I sat down and Alex Moreno came up to me and he's like, "Hi, you're the new kid, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can just get over the whole big kind of smell." And then, so I was hanging out with him for a little bit until I met Colleen, who Alex owed $350 or something like that. And first I thought she was kind of, but turns out she was pretty cool. So I started hanging out with her, and she introduced me to my best friend Josh now. And so we all started hanging out, and I pretty much turned on Alex hanging out with them. And we were pretty good friends up until high school. And Colleen kind of drifted away because she never really had any classes with us. And Alex, well, he still tried to hang around me, but that kind of avoided him. And then freshman year, I think it was, the first couple of days I was in back eating sugar after a tube. And Alex Moreno and with my friend Isaac Muse, and Andy came in, or Andy walked up and he was like, "Oh, well, you're eating sugar, you're stupid." So that's how I met Andy. In sophomore year, Andy and Josh were beating up this kid, and I walked up and got him in a headlock, and it turned out to be Ed, and yeah, that was pretty much Ed, and we're all pretty good friends now, so.
I went to Thornton Middle School, and my 6th grade year I met Josh Piper, who was one of my best friends for about 6th through 8th grade. And about 7th grade, I think, I met Garrett, and I started hanging out with him and everything, and had him and me and Josh. It was kind of a little trio, except for this little kid, Alex, that was always bugging. And he came up to me one day and asked me to lend him some money to buy a Snickers ice cream bar, and it was like $1.30 or something, and I did it for like a couple days, bought him a couple, and then he paid me back in pennies, like every single day, like gave me a penny until he was all paid off. It was terrible. And then no one liked Alex, so we all avoided him. And then my freshman year, I didn't have any classes with Garrett or Josh or Alex, thank God. And I had AIS English class, and that's where I met Andy. He was in my class with me, and I remember we always used to sit next to each other and like talk crap to each other just for the hell of it. Like, we wouldn't mean anything by it, but it was just funny. And then I came to realize that he was hanging out with Garrett and Josh, and didn't know that he knew him. So it was kind of cool that he was in our little group, and we were already kind of like weird. And then I think in sophomore year, I had a creative writing class, and Ed was in my class. And I told him that I wanted him to sign a petition against the school not allowing us to wear camouflage, because I think it's more of a support for our troops or people than our family that are in the army or war or anything. And I feel like it's just a sign of support for them. And I wanted him to sign it, and he said, "Ah, you're a Jew," and he walked off and said he wouldn't sign it. So I was mad at him, and I hated him. And then junior year, I ended up in a classical studies class with him, and we talked about like Greek mythology and all that good crap. And he used to sit in back and talk with this guy. I don't know his name, but he always used to sit in back and like talk German, and and he would just like talk about the Jews and everything, and they'd do like every single paper on the Jews. And like, it was just terrible. Like, we were supposed to write about like Hades and Persephone and something, and he'd write the Jews kidnapped Persephone or something. Like, he'd always add in the dang Jews. And it was just hysterical. And then so I started talking to him, didn't quite hate him as much anymore. And then found out he was also hanging with my friends that I hadn't seen in a while. And now my junior year, I am, or my senior year, my senior year, I'm hanging out with my friends again that I've lost touch with, because we have my friend Garrett and I have a second hour class to go to together, which I hardly ever go to. a third hour, which we all, me, Andy, and Ed and Garrett all hang out in the class together. We do a lot of work together, as you can see. And Josh I see in the hall every once in a while, and kind of hang out in Deutsch class with him when he comes in. And that's also a class that they have, just different hours. So we all kind of got back together. It was pretty cool.
Alright, kind of met Alex at first. That's besides the point. First I guess I met Garrett. Garrett was, well actually I met Colleen first. Met her in 6th grade. It was during 9/11, the day that it actually happened, and I met her in the hallway. She said we should all be in the hallway praying instead of learning in the classroom. And I was like, hey, that's cool, because I was all religious at the time and whatnot. And then I guess I met Garrett. He was trying to launch a pencil sharpener using the grooves in his binder. He launched it clear across the room one time, and then I told him that if he put it further under it, it would launch it better, and then he smashed it. It was pretty awesome. And then we met some more people. Yeah, we met some more people freshman year. My friend Andy Karupa, when I first met him, I mean, he was like, I hear tell you bees what done these, and something like that. And then after that, we started throwing goggles at each other. It was a pretty good day. And that progressed into roller fights and then chair fights. And, you know, it progressed down the line from there. And then I met Chris DeGarro at an assembly, and he was talking about something about kangaroos, you know, regular emo crap. But then we met Ed. Ed was the single greatest contribution to our group because he wrestled everybody. It didn't matter if you were 8 times his size, he'd wrestle you. But then you had to beat his head in, and it was a great day. Every day. Always. And,
I ended up going to a different school than all them. I went to Northland Middle. There, I usually had a lot of friends most of the time, and I ended up in the biggest group of the school, which was like 30 Mexicans. I was pretty much one of them most of the time. And the problem with that is that there's too many conflicts because it was such a strange hierarchy in there. So eventually, when high school hit, everybody just scattered, and I was left with like nobody to talk to the entire time freshman year. Except a little ways in there, I met Isaac Muse, guy smart like me. Got way too into drugs and pretty much lost everything now, and we don't even know where he is. But through him, I met Garrett, and from Garrett, I met Josh Piper. Because I met Garrett, it was like chemistry freshman year, and he was eating sugar in the back, which he had a whole bunch of writing on the board saying, don't eat this sugar, and yelled it at us at the beginning of class a couple of times. Then he's just in there eating it through the little mixing straw. Comedy was had, because he just ate like the entire beaker full. Anywho, after I met Garrett for a little bit, I was talking with him, and we ended up becoming friends. I also noticed that he was wearing Kiss shirts. I was thinking, I should get to know this guy. That's a good band. He's like the only person I've seen wearing that. But other than that, when we got to the next semester, which was Earth Chemistry, I think, or Earth Science, I mean, then it was, Garrett started showing me his other friends, which was Josh Piper, who'd show up first hour. He was a pretty great guy. I think I met him because I said laser turtles, and he's all, whoa, that's 4 times the average laser power of the regular turtles. And then the comedy was had, and I eventually got to know Piper. Me and him became friends too. More classes with Garrett and Josh because we planned it out a little more. But I ended up with a tutoring center with nobody else. But eventually I met this one dude. Came up to me and he's all like, dude, you know what's awesome? We're ramming a bus full of orphans into a church full of nuns. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You rock, dude. And then we ended up chatting about that for a while. Then Josh came in, and then Josh and Ed started talking about it a bit more. And then I think Josh and Ed started like wrestling, and then Garrett came in about a couple weeks later. This was just going on a little bit every day. And Garrett came in and just joined in and wrangled Ed too. And then it became, Ed joined our group and pretty much became one of us, and has been wrangled ever since. But eventually I met Colleen. I believe I met her freshman year. She claims to remember this, but I'm like drawing a complete blank on this, even though I'm pretty sure it did happen because I remember who she was. And then she was also, turns out she knew Garrett and Josh, so we all ended up hanging out a little bit once in a while. And now we're all stuck in 3rd hour and senior year. Garrett and Colleen have 2nd hour, and pretty much good times we've had. We've had new people, different people jumping in the group, leaving soon, hanging on the side. We've got a really big group if we get everyone together, and It's been
Well, I
really
never
good.
went to Thornton Middle. I went to AC. But in freshman year, I was pretty much a loner. I didn't hang out with any of you guys. And in sophomore year, I started hanging out with Andy and Josh. And then later in that year, I started hanging out with Colleen. And then I found out they knew each other. And then while hanging out with Andy and Josh, some kid came up behind me and choked me. I remember I hated that kid so much. I wanted to stab him. But then after I found out it was Garrett, he's not such a bad guy. Still want to stab him. But, and that's pretty much how I met the group.